This is Camden Calloway, and you're listening to the Other Brothers podcast.
All right, Cody, Jared,
what's up, brother?
We made it
did.
To another episode.
Episode number 2.
Somehow, whoever could shut us down potentially hasn't shut us down.
Does the FCC know about us yet?
They probably do. I believe the FBI probably got tipped off by Sacrament Baby.
That's
and
true.
So there's no doubt the FCC is listening closely today.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of suits hanging around my door. Have you?
Well, we are Mormons.
Oh, you're right.
We'd usually just have suits hanging around our doors, but they're our suits.
No, I meant like FBI agents or missionaries, one or the other. Okay, so our last episode, Jared, go ahead and recap for me. What did we tell everyone last week?
Okay, episode 1 was, I know it's true, I'm just not a good enough member. I can't be a member. And I thought we had a pretty good discussion. We I had some good feedback from it, I think. A couple of members have reached out and really appreciated we talked about. They mentioned that it's kind of a tough subject to broach. And we did a good enough job of talking and not offending too much. And I thought it was pretty good for a first round. When I think about our little podcast, Cody, I think about, I've been in a lot of really dumb, crappy bands, and you get your band together and you get real excited about your band. You're like, we're going to make the best music ever. Like people's face they're going to melt off because we're going to be the best band ever. And you start writing songs and like your first 10 songs are just terrible. So my hope is after episode 10 that we really start honing some things in. I was excited to talk about our last topic, and then we kind of threw some ideas around this week of our list of things that we have for potential topics, and we felt like this would be a good transition from last week to this week. So what are we talking about today, Cody?
So we are going to discuss the topic of I don't have the perfect Mormon family, and I just don't know what to do anymore.
Right. I think people feel like there's like the typical Mormon family, the typical perfect Mormon family.
So tell me what that looks like, Jared. If you're going to describe the typical perfect Mormon family, paint me a picture.
Oh, okay. So first of all, you have a minimum of 6 children.
Of course.
They're all geniuses.
Duh.
They're all complete athletes. They all can play 3 or 4 different instruments.
How many languages do these kids speak?
They come out of the womb speaking a couple already.
Good.
And then they get fluent in others quickly. They have their the scriptures memorized inside and out.
Of course. They don't even take their scriptures. They
don't
just
take them.
Memorize whatever they need.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
They're all just good looking. It's just good looking people. All their kids are cute. The dad looks good. Mom looks good. They're always happy, and they show up to church, and they just can't wait to see everybody. And they've got that a huge glowing smile on their face, and they're saying hello, and then they just beautifully fill up that pew from end to end, and everyone just knows who they are.
So you're talking about the Abrahams.
Not at all.
Good looking dad, good looking mom, good looking kids, always so well behaved in sacrament.
You got one of those things right. Good looking mom. No, I mean, how far off am I from what you would say?
No, you're pretty much spot on. I mean, if you think about kind of where we in the church kind of push our kids, athletics always, music always, you want to look perfect. You want to look like you fit in. And I think that's what makes this episode so much fun today is you fit in better than you think.
Yes. And how do we not? Because there are some families that really just are killing it, and they do come close to that. And so if you've gotten there, congratulations, you guys are awesome.
Come on the show. We want to interview you.
How do you do it?
Yes.
But most likely, I think our point of this episode is the optics might be there that there's this perfect LDS family, and you might feel inclined to compare that family to yours. And we got to tell you that really the perfect LDS family is kind of a unicorn and probably doesn't really exist. Did you know that someone mentioned that there's references to unicorn in the Bible?
No. So, okay.
I don't know why.
Go ahead, hit me with the joke.
I don't have a joke.
No joke.
I just, can someone fact check me on that? I think there's some kind of reference to a unicorn in the Bible. I think that this perfect LDS family is a unicorn.
There you go.
And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And how should we start? First of all, I don't know if we introduced ourselves. You're the Cobra. I'm Jer Bear.
That's right.
And I might start a petition to rename the show to the Cobra and Jer Bear Experience.
Oh, I like that.
That has maybe a little bit of a ring to it.
It does. Well, you got the Jimi Hendrix experience.
Right.
And now you
keep naming experiences.
Yeah, keep naming experiences.
What else do you have? Jimi Hendrix?
That was it.
Okay.
that was all I had. I'm sorry.
All right. So you started off with a question for me.
I did.
So I'm gonna put it back on you. So and I have a little bit of a experiment.
Okay.
And I pulled up some pictures. So I went to the churchofjesuschrist.org.
Okay.
Really, I went to LDS.org. By the way, you can still do that. It'll take you there.
Yeah, it's way quicker.
Don't feel bad about it.
No.
LDS.org. I went to LDS.org because, Cody, I was thinking about this subject and what has shaped my, I guess, identity of the LDS family.
Sure.
And it's our upbringing through primary and then through our youth, young women's priesthood, and even the physical media that we reference, books, videos, pictures, they all are going to portray this typical family. So I pulled some pictures for you, and I want you to just describe what you see in the first picture.
All right. So we got mom, dad. Looks like we got a little baby girl, 2 boys, and they're standing in front of what I can guess is the San Diego Temple. This is an illustrated picture. It's not a photo.
Very good.
And they're all smiling, and they all look very happy.
They're dressed to the nines.
They are.
Is that the term? Is that the right term? Dressed to the nines? I feel like, by the way, I've listened to our first episode. I think I made some words up as I talked as well.
They're good words, though.
I made up cotton.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as far as in reference to, I think that guy got cotton up in something.
Yeah. Actually, I already petitioned Webster, and we are getting your words added.
Cotton. I think it's good.
Yeah, it was good.
Anyways, these guys are dressed very nicely. They have the 2 young boys have their ties and maybe a little vest on,
Little sweater vest,
nice slacks. The mom is holding her infant child, which the child is being cool.
Yeah,
just not upset about anything.
No.
Smiling, just being perfect. The mom and dad, they obviously aren't fighting. They didn't have a tiff the night before. They're good. Standing in front of the temple and smiles on their face. Okay. What's going on in the next picture?
Okay, so you got another family. You got mom, dad, 3 boys, and looks like we're going on an evening stroll. And everyone looks happy. We're just talking about our day. We're just having a good time.
It's amazing to me just how well these family members are getting along in these pictures. They look like they love to be together.
Oh yeah.
Everything's going awesome. Looks like they're going for a little family walk. The brothers, they're
not fighting.
They're not fighting. They are like, they just love to be with each other. All right. And one more picture.
All right. So our bottom one here, we've got another family, mom, dad, one boy, one girl, and we're kneeling in prayer.
So just a really nice reverent. I like to just imagine this is the end to their day, their little perfect day. They are ending their day with all kneeling together and just peaceful and quiet and reverent, and that's great. So this is exactly like what our families look like, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My kids, before they go to bed, all brush their teeth, get their jammies on, come and remind me it's time for family prayer.
Yeah.
And then usually they perform a musical number on their way to their rooms.
Right.
An original composition. It's touching, really.
Yeah. So the point is, what you can capture in one moment in a picture is not representative of this family's life.
We talked about that last week. Stop comparing your background life to everyone's highlight reel on social media. You don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff. So
exactly. And again, striving to be like these families in these images is what we're trying to do. I mean, that's great that they're all together. They are having a good time. There's no animosity. There's unity, and but in reality, even that perfect family that you see at church or that you know of, and you think that this is just basically 24/7 in their home.
Yeah, no.
All these images. It's not.
No,
it's not.
I put in here whenever we're ready to get to it, Elder Uchtdorf, kind of talked a little bit about that. That essentially the perfect family just doesn't exist. We're all, and that's not to say if you think you have the perfect family, we're trying to take anything away from you. What we're trying to say here is that it is normal for families to have disruptions, disagreements, not see everything eye to eye all the time. Your kids might struggle in certain areas, or you might struggle. It's all part of this journey of mortality, where we're trying to learn to be better.
Right. So the point is, as members of the church, we really focus on improving our family. We really have this vision of a family that is unified and go to church together and live the gospel and all get along. And it's because we understand that that's one of the just gifts of our experience here on earth, to experience and have our own families. That's why members of the LDS Church strive for this perfection. So I think what can happen is, like we kind of already alluded to, is that there are other members who may recognize that their family really isn't keeping up with the Joneses. They look at the Joneses, brother and sister Jones, and their family, and they probably just have these feelings of we're obviously nowhere near that level of righteousness, or however you want to describe kind of the perfect family unit, and they can get discouraged. And we're here to talk about how maybe don't do that, because you don't know, like you mentioned, just because you see them at church or for a little bit in your meetings, or you scroll through their social media and they look like they're just doing great, that they most likely aren't. And I kind of had this analogy that I pitched to you before a show is, we also know we work on ourselves as individuals, and we strive to perfection. And we believe that we are created in God's image, His perfect image. That doesn't mean that we're perfect individuals. It's something that we strive for. And we also believe that the family unit is a divine design from our Heavenly Father. That doesn't mean that our families are perfect, but it's something that we strive for. And by the way, Cody, can you remind everyone the time limit on when we can stop striving for perfection?
I think that's never right. We've got to, it's a lifelong process.
Yeah. I think we have eternity.
Yeah.
Do we not? And so give yourself a little bit of a break too. If you feel like your family just is never going to get there, you have a lot of time to work towards your idealistic view of what your family should be. So, one thing I put in our notes here is I think sometimes we take for granted. I'm blessed to have an amazing family. My parents just celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh, that's amazing.
I come from a family whose family stuck together, whose parents stuck together, still together, who got sealed in the temple. I'm sealed to them. All of my brothers and sisters are just awesome people, and people often would come up to my parents or come up to me and say, you guys are just such a great family. How did you do it? And I'm always like, I don't know, but really I do know. It's because my parents tried to live the gospel and provided the gospel in our lives. But I tend to think of not every family is like mine. And I think, Cody, I would assume that I think your parents are still together. I think you have a pretty good family too.
I do. I have really good parents that didn't drown me at birth, even though I know it was tempting. And, I don't know exactly how long they've been married. I think they're approaching 40 years. I think they're knocking on the door 40 years.
Yeah.
30, 37, 38 years. But no, kind of the same thing. But I think, going to your point of you see that family sitting there on the pew at church and you think they just all look so perfect. Like you did not see the mad dash that happened 30 minutes ago when I yelled at my son for the 8th time, if you do not get out of bed and brush your teeth,
right,
I don't know what I'm going to do, but you're not going to like it. Get out of bed, get ready for church.
Yeah.
People need to, I guess they don't need to see that, but they need to understand that, you know what? We all kind of struggle in the morning, especially when they change the church from the afternoon to the morning and then daylight savings time happens on top of that.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh
everyone's raging.
I got to get up super early.
Yeah. So I want to talk to you, Cody, about, obviously you and I have been pretty blessed with our family, and we're grateful for those others who've been blessed with a pretty easy go, kind of lucked into a great situation, blessed into a great situation of a great family. But Cody, there are members of our church where that's not the case with their family. I guess this idea of the parents are together forever, and all the brothers and sisters they get along well, and there's not a whole lot of besides the occasional skirmishes within the house. There's not a lot of family turmoil, but there absolutely are members that have experienced this and are experiencing it now. What do we say to members who are members of a family that with divorced parents, to where you're reading gospel doctrine or about families being sealed together forever, and let's just take a youth, how that youth feels about their parents, and now how do they, how can they not feel something different or feel some kind of discouragement when their own family is not like what the typical LDS family they're taught should look like?
I think that's a great question. I think that the way you have to look at it is you're not that family right now, but you have that ability. I'll give a personal example, and my dad listens to this podcast, so he's part of this. I don't care if he hears this. He already knows. Growing up,
he also has nice calves. That's where you got it from.
That is.
I've met him once.
If you were to, you did actually. I was like, yeah, that's funny, Jared. No, you actually did. If you were to see my dad and myself interact now, what just happened?
I I feel like there's a lot of distractions. You're yawning.
I'm sorry.
They're doing things.
Okay,
I'm getting texts from them.
I know.
It's hard to do everything at once. We can't even keep in focus.
You're going to have to cut some of this because have you noticed I'm just not with it today?
Something's off.
I am talking out my ass and it sounds like I am. Okay.
Something's off. We'll get on
We'll get
track.
it back. Okay, see?
So just when you talk, make sure to try to talk into the microphone.
We're not on camera, right?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Yeah, you got to stop that.
No booby honking.
Okay.
I'm talking to you.
So Cody,
Yes, sir.
our listeners don't know this, but we totally just stopped in the middle of our podcast.
Yeah,
Because things weren't flowing like they were.
they weren't. And we had to bleep me a few times.
Cody, Cobra,
Jared Bear.
look at me. Look in my eyes. You call me Jerry Bear right now.
I can.
Look,
Jared Bear.
look into both my eyes. At the
I
same
get
time.
lost if I do that.
Now listen. Here's
Yes,
what
sir.
happened.
Okay.
We started recording our show.
Yep.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't our best effort.
It wasn't.
We noticed that something just wasn't working well. So we just had a brilliant idea, which is what?
We asked our wives to sit on our laps.
She's just to clarify, mine's on my knee,
Oh,
tastefully on my knee, which is part of a lap.
whoa! Your hand can go over there, please.
I can't edit all this.
Scratching my
Yeah, you were scratching something.
I'm not this good of an audio editor.
Keep it.
So keep it together, man.
I can't. If you could see Jamie's face right now, you'd know
We
why I'm
went
saying
too far the
ridiculous
other way.
things.
We went too far.
We did.
Okay, so now we have, we need to be a little centered.
Yes,
We need some comfort.
I'm ready.
And if people don't already know, the people who know us know that we completely married up.
Yeah.
And we don't deserve the women that are on our knee. Now, I say women plural, but I'm just only my wife is on my knee. Only yours is on yours.
Yeah, we're Mormon, dude. You got to watch your phrasing.
Exactly. So we have our wives on our knee, and we want to do the rest of the show with them because, how can we talk about families without having the perspective of our wives or
Yeah.
that motherly perspective? Jamie, she was giving us a little bit of insight from across the room about her thoughts on some things that we talked about.
Okay. Well, what I had texted you was just kind of a blip to what my experience was when I was a teenager. So, for me, I'm a convert. I wasn't raised in the church. I only became to know the church through Jared when we started dating in high school. But my family growing up, I had the perfect mom, but I had a very much less than perfect dad who really wasn't in my life most of it growing up. And luckily, my mom was very strong. She's a very strong person. And so there was a lot of times in my life where I really didn't feel like I needed a dad. Like, I've got it. It's good. My mom's got everything taken care of. I've got an older brother. He's helpful too. So there wasn't really a need in my mind at that time for a dad. But, I don't think you realize those needs until you get older and you really see how the family functions. Now, I had grown up in another church and I had gone to many of the different get-togethers, whether it be, Vacation Bible School or just being part of the youth group and going on youth trips. And one of the trips that we had taken was to a college here in the state, and they had musicians and people come in and speak and things like that. And I remember one night during this event where one of the music acts had gotten up and one of the members of the band had kind of given his spiel about family. And he had said in his talk that, you may not have a father here on earth, but you have a father in heaven. And it never occurred to me that parallel, that in anything to do with the earthly life, whether it be family, whether it be home, whether it be job, whether it be children, any of it, we struggle with a lot of different things. Those will all be made perfect because they're all perfect in heaven. That's never going to be perfect here. So for me, it hit home because he specifically mentioned father, which for me, I was totally lacking. But to know that I did have a father, and he loved me more than anybody on earth could love me. And so I really, in that moment, it hit me really hard, but it made me know that I did have somebody there, that I had that father that loved me, and I just needed to recognize it. And so I think if we could all think that way, if we could all realize that while our families on earth may not be perfect, or they may be lacking, or they may be horrible, you have a family in heaven, and they're waiting on you. You just have to do what you can do here on earth to get back to them.
That was the missing piece, Jared.
I think we need to quit.
Yeah.
And new podcast, Other Sisters.
Yep.
Doesn't have the same ring to it, but obviously way better.
No, it was way better. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of something for the Other Sisters on the fly, and I got nothing. I'm sorry. No, it was amazing.
I have a question for Jamie, who is my wife. If you didn't know.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
Y'all look very close, so I was assuming marriage.
I'm interested because you were a convert. On what was your perspective? Growing up, you mentioned that your family looked a little different, and really probably just looked like most families do. What was different to you when you saw? By the way, speaking of imperfect, this podcast is far from it. I really enjoyed our first episode where we heard our sweet kids yelling at each other and our wives sneezing and all that fun stuff. We decided to keep it in there and to say we're not shooting for a perfect podcast, because this is all about what we want to represent. It's not perfect. There's some. It's
real life.
It's real life. So,
It is. But how could you describe this as not perfect? I'm sitting down with friends and my wife, just having a conversation like this is pretty perfect.
For sure. So
Let's get real here.
my question for Jamie is, what was your, experience or perception once you started becoming acclimated to the church and kind of the culture of the church regarding families? What did those families look like to you, and how were they different? And did it surprise you? Did it excite you? Did it scare you? Were you, did you love it? I mean, what did you see?
I think probably my initial feelings I always knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to marry a man and never go through a divorce like I had experienced in my life.
No gender identity crisis there.
True. So yeah, I wanted to have a stable relationship. I wanted to have children. I wanted us to all have the same beliefs. I didn't want to, and I'm not saying anything against other religions. I didn't want to marry a man who might be Catholic or something that I knew that I probably wouldn't mesh with. I wanted us to have a deep, the foundation of our marriage to be our faith. And so I needed us to be united in that. So I had an image of what I knew that I wanted. And honestly, all I really had to do was look at your parents. I didn't have to go much further. And again, this coming from an outsider and somebody looking at them and thinking, oh my, this is the perfect family. This is exactly what I would want. Now, are they perfect? No. I've known them now for a very long time. We all have our flaws. We all have our imperfections, but everybody, every member of your family is perfect to me. So yeah, seeing them and seeing how they interacted and seeing, your family that was much larger than mine, Mormon pun intended, but that's what I wanted. I wanted something like that, I think. And you see that a lot in the church. And you see families and they exemplify what you hope that you can be and what you want to be. I think what makes the members of our church appear to be so perfect is that we all kind of have the same goal. We want to find a spouse that we love and that we can spend the rest of our life with, and we put so much focus on making sure that that can last and can work, and we try to do the best at raising our kids and letting them know how important family is. And so I think just that itself is probably what other people see as being perfect, where there's still so much imperfection in that. You know, I mean, we're going to all be imperfect in so many ways, but we do our best to try to at least keep the family sacred.
Yeah. So one thing that you said as you talked was maybe when you were growing up, you didn't have that within your own family. But can we not have that with our families when we get to the age of having our own families? So my point is, going back to this, as we're talking about this, Cody, I just have this vision of either a young man or a young woman listening to this, and they're thinking about their own family and how in their own family there may be abuse in their family. They may have divorced parents. They may not have a priesthood holder in their family. They may have a father who, our youth can become so cynical of our church based on experiences they have within their own families or other people in the church. It's not the gospel that discourages them. It's the people that are representing the gospel. There may be families out there where, yes, I have a priesthood holder father, and when we're at church, you know what? He looks like he's representing that priesthood. He looks like he's a great guy. But when we get home, I'm not seeing that. And that makes me cynical.
I think we've all heard that.
Yeah.
Have you not seen that firsthand where someone, points out, oh yeah, well, brother so-and-so does this. So
Right.
like it's some kind of trophy to point out someone else's flaw, and that justifies your excuse and
Sure.
not wanting to be a part of it.
Right. We love to justify our reasons
Oh, yeah.
to, like you said, either not be part of it or to start planting that seed of doubt, or, just that cynicism that can be built in, and can grow. And I think about that youth who maybe themselves are struggling with, there's so many youth that struggle with mental and emotional health. And, I can only imagine those youth are wondering why that they are having to deal with this, and how my family is, people that I should be able to turn to, or comfort I should be able to have as I deal with these things, and maybe their family isn't. And so I think, Cody, it took us this long to get to our point, but there are people who are discouraged with the idea of the perfect LDS family, because in their own family, they're suffering through, kind of these hard things to talk about: abuse, mental, emotional issues, priesthood abuse, divorced parents. So, how can you not become cynical when you scroll through your Instagram? I was going to say Facebook, but there's no way youth are using Facebook anymore.
No.
When you scroll through your Insta, is that the right Insta?
I think that's what the cool kids call it.
Or your Gram?
I was going to say
all I know is I know we call it the Soch.
The Soch.
And that's given us a leg up on
has.
youth. But when they scroll through and they have other friends of the church, and they see the bride and groom exiting the temple, they just got sealed for all time and eternity, and their own family is broken, or at least they feel is broken. Their parents are divorced. There's some issue or some issues that they have. How does that youth not turn cynical towards, one, the imagery that we talked about earlier in the podcast when I had you look at those pictures, 2, the idea of families are forever. 3, the idea of this, the perfect families that they see in the church. How do those youth or how do those young adults, and of course it bleeds over to any age, how do you not become cynical? It's a tough question, isn't it?
I think, okay, so Jamie shared a personal experience. I'll share one. Growing up, my dad and I really didn't get along well. And to kind of paint just a little bit of a background, we grew up on a farm in Idaho. I worked on the family farm. Dad was dad and the boss. And, there came a time in my life, since we're on the show, I won't give the exact situation, but, my dad and I just didn't speak at all.
Yeah.
I had nothing to say to him. He had nothing I wanted to hear. And that's how my life was. I'd get up, I'd wave at him, if that, and I'd go to work. I'd get home, I'd do everything I could to avoid an active conversation with my dad. And, you fast forward now. So that was when I was a teenager. So half a lifetime later for me, you fast forward, I talk with my dad on the phone every day. He was ecstatic to hear about us doing a podcast and wanted to listen to it. And, he's serving in a bishopric up at BYU, Idaho. He's like, oh, I can't wait to tell some of the kids up here about your stuff. I think it's going to be good. When you ask the question, Jared, how do you not get cynical? You've got to develop that long game. It's not a short game. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. Good things will happen in your life if you have the patience and the faith to stay the course. And I promise you, it will all happen. We brought our wives a little bit closer today to help us out. I think about meeting Amberly. I was ready for way before I met her, years before I met Amberly. I was waiting for her. I was looking for her, but I wasn't doing everything I needed to do on my side. And there's no coincidences in the gospel. I find it very interesting that about a week after I finally decided to sit down with the bishop, get my life right, make a few changes, I met my wife almost a week to the date after, I sat down to do that. So for anybody listening, and especially youth, if you are the victim of abuse, if your parents have issues with whatever, if they're divorced, if whatever is going on, just like Jamie said earlier, you have a family. You may not be able to see them right now, but you have a family. And I promise you, if you will be faithful, if you will do everything you can, our Savior has promised you happiness and family for all eternity. And so you can't, I'm sorry, that was a very long answer for a very short question.
It was great.
How do you avoid cynical? You have to have faith and you have to have hope. And this gospel is a gospel built on hope.
You have to be able to separate the gospel with people, with experiences. You have to be able to separate the gospel with issues that you may have with people within the church. You have to be able to separate the gospel and what's taught through the gospel, be able to separate it from cynicism. Well, I think we need to change the tone a little bit. Let's take a break. Cody,
is there a new sponsor this week?
Would you be surprised if Sacrament Baby went baby belly up?
So did they go baby belly up, or is that what I've been reading in the news with this new this new lawsuit?
Right. So we appreciate what they did for us. They got us through one episode, and no worries. Let's take a break. I was asked to talk about our next sponsor, and Cody, did you know 9 out of 10 members of the church have had at some point in their lives a drinking problem?
I had no idea.
Your eyebrows went up for sure. And Cody, well, of course you didn't know because I literally made that stat up.
Okay.
Yeah. So now when I say drinking problem, I bet you're thinking that I mean they've struggled with or have experimented with drinking themselves. But what I really mean is they've struggled with not drinking. And let me explain.
Okay.
Stay with me for a minute.
I'm here.
Have you been in those situations where your boss has asked you for some drinks and you have to decline and he's like, I'm never talking to you again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Cody, I don't know if you've heard, but our friends at Sacrament Baby have gone belly up.
I've read the news.
Almost certainly, and maybe even specifically because of us advertising their app last week. Seems you were right about the FBI frowning upon a swipe right baby app. So, as most agile tech startups do, they pivoted. And they've asked you and I to be their new spokesperson, new spokesmen for their new product, Beer Me. Cody.
Oh, I was waiting on the other foot to drop.
Beer Me is the most robust, all-inclusive, NHTSA 5-star crash-rated, gluten-free surrogate drinking service of its kind. The description of the service is in the name. With Beer Me, you can rent a drinking surrogate to represent you in those drinking problem situations. They can be hired for just a quick event, like drinks with the boss one evening, or for longer events like that neighborhood barbecue you never want to go to. Just let them tag along. When the moment is right, you'll know, they'll know, and they will spring into action being your drinking proxy. The best part is, when the evening is over, you're going to need to drive them home, and they'll literally be forced to listen to you share a message about the gospel.
Who writes this stuff?
You and I know. Members get caught up in these drinking problem situations all the time. There's never a non-awkward way of either saying no or just walking up to a group of other socialites with a Sprite, which is basically Mormon beer, in your hand. We hate offending others. We hate being rude. But with Beer Me, drinking problems are finally a thing of your past. So, when you find yourself with a drinking problem, just say, Beer Me.
I love it. Beer Me.
All right.
I did need to ask you in this ad that I'm now reading, NHTSA.
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
National Highway Transportation Safety
Of
Association
America.
or something.
Association.
Yeah. So it's been certified.
Yeah. No, it's totally legit. So yeah. So there's an app, I guess, we're going to use on this one too.
You know, I don't know the details. I just read what I was given.
What you're given. Okay. Well, everyone look for Beer Me. Sounds very exciting.
Right.
And yeah, I can't wait to try it out myself.
All right. This one didn't fall as funny for you as the last one did. So I got some work to do. Or whoever wrote this has some work to do. I think you're worried about the repercussions. Cody, I want to talk about an awesome conversation that I had with an awesome member today.
I want to hear this. Actually, this is the part of the show I'm the most excited for because anytime you get to have one of these conversations that I guess you feel like you've made a difference or you can, I don't know. It's just the best part of this. So I want to hear it.
I appreciate those experiences that kind of reinforce. We come up with ideas, and sometimes we feel like it's a hit. Sometimes it may feel like a miss. And I think we even struggled with our topic today of is it the right time? Is it the right topic? Can we carry an episode talking about the typical Mormon family, this myth, which by the way we did get fact checked by our awesome wives, and unicorn is referenced in the Bible.
It is.
It is referenced. So 9 times,
9.
Amberly says.
Thank you. I was going to count the references, so thank you.
So I think there's probably maybe 9 families that have ever existed that probably are close to being perfect.
And we've already decided the Abrahams were one of them.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So I'm talking to this awesome sister, and what's so cool about this sister is she's married to a non-member guy. She has been divorced. She had married a member. They had kids together with that first marriage, and she's now married to another great guy who happens to not be a member. And she was when she talked about her family today, because I was basically just asking, kind of going down the list of her family members. She had so much joy talking about her family, and when she talked about her husband, she she mentioned that he was just the best and that she loved him so much and just a great guy. He's now she has a son who is preparing to enter the MTC to serve a mission. Her non-member husband is paying for his mission. That's how great this guy is. It speaks to her son about ready to serve a mission, even though that son, the children in her family have experienced an LDS family that had divorced, and they are doing awesome. The son serving a mission. Their other son is just a great kid. They have a daughter, and she's amazing. And by the way, she has some mental and emotional issues that she has to deal with. And this sister was just going down the list of her family members and just beaming about them. And in that moment, I realized they represent what we're talking about. And she even said, my family brings me so much joy. They're perfect to me. Now, we often are going to say, hey, whoa, but your husband's not a member. You're not sealed in the temple. You're not.
Well, to your point, Jared.
Yeah.
I read the name, which we won't say. I had no idea. Like, this family looks absolutely perfect. They are some of the most amazing people I have ever met.
Right.
And so I love this conversation. Like I said,
Cody, she was not embarrassed or discouraged about talking about her family situation at all. She was so proud to talk about her family. She, like I said, she mentioned that they are just perfect. And I loved that. And I knew from that experience that we had to talk about this because, we got a little dark earlier, and I apologize. I thought it was important to talk about.
We got serious, but that's okay.
The point is, even though it doesn't look perfect, it's perfect for this sister. Even though it doesn't look perfect, you can overcome those things. We kind of need to, shouldn't we be a little ashamed of ourselves sometimes as members?
Well, always, but tell me why I should be ashamed this time.
You specifically, that's an off,
we take that off the air.
Show conversation.
Fair enough.
I think that, and this is not just an issue within our own church. I think people who are Christian from all sorts of denominations have this issue with judging people and comparing people. And I think in our church culture, sometimes we feel because our family isn't this and that, that we feel like we're less than. And there are members who will probably
agree with that,
and probably, whether intentionally or not, or subconsciously, may judge other family members and whisper about, well, she's divorced, or I heard they got divorced. I heard that their son is in rehab or in jail. I heard that this and that, and shame on us.
Who cares, man?
Who cares? Worry about yourself.
Not saying I'm perfect, because I probably still do this.
You are perfect in my eyes. And you mentioned you're a 4. Hey, add another 6 to that.
But no, it's I got enough problems.
Huh? We do have a thing going.
We do, and we always have.
And
Jared was the very pretty girl that I always wanted to ask to the prom, but never thought I could.
I will never not profess my love for you.
And then he asked me to the prom, so it was amazing.
Yeah. Well, I guess while we're sharing personal experiences,
might as well.
And I wonder if our families are like, "Oh, great."
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We're just gonna do it. You mentioned that a lot of people see the Abrahams as this perfect family, and I'm talking about my parents, who are just a legend in our ward. They were some of the first members in our actual ward when our ward formed in this area. So they have a lot of history here, and people think that we're this perfect family. I think all my brothers and sisters really are perfect, and I'm the black sheep. But
I am the black sheep, so there's no questions there.
But no, I have a sister who I adore. I love her so much, and she at one point in her life decided that the church wasn't for her, or that she maybe stopped believing. And I don't know the extent of what she stopped believing in, but it was enough to fall away from the church, or to leave the church. And I think what hurt me the most is her feeling that because she left the church, that somehow she can't really associate with us anymore. And I think that our family, and especially my parents, and a lot of people who have family members leave the church, they don't really know how to interact with that family member anymore. And it's almost like, okay, well, do you think we did something to you? Are you hurt by us? And the person who leaves the church just feels like, well, I guess I'm not going to be able to associate with my family anymore because I've left. And I so wish that I would have reached out to her earlier. And obviously, if you're a member of the church and you still believe in the church, your heart breaks when you hear of family members leaving. But the thing that breaks our heart more than that is feeling like your family member has left your family. Recently, we've just really been blessed to have more communication with her. And we've, she's reached out to us and we've reached out to her, and this weird standoff of she doesn't want to talk to us, and her probably thinking they don't want to talk to me, which is so silly. It's so regrettable that happens. And I just remember making a comment to my mom of, you know what, Mom, it's not that she's not a member of the church. It's that I wish she still felt like she was a member of this family. That's what I'm sad about, is that doesn't she understand that she's my family, that we're her family? And I think my mom shared that with her, and that was a big deal for her to hear, because she thought that and speaking of culture, she thought that we would not want to have anything to do with her. And, a lot of times we don't know how to process when a family member leaves the church, and there's anger there's resentment, there's heartache, there's misunderstanding, there's all these feelings. And for a minute, it's raw. Sure, it's definitely raw. But ultimately, you are still a member of this, our imperfect family. And the point is, everyone who thinks that there's a family that just has it all together and they're perfect, those families are struggling, and they have issues too within their own family, and they have heartache too. And there's things that they're dealing with. So just remember, every time you're looking at that family in the pew, that you just think there's no way that there's any issue there. They definitely are this idea of this perfect family. We don't know, and you don't know. And please, if that's part of our culture in the church, we have to stop with that. And we have to stop trying to represent this perfect family. And if you want your children to be athlete superstars, if you want them to be intellectual superstars, if you want them to know the gospel in and out, and you want them to, know the 7 languages and know how to play all these instruments because you want the best for them, that's fantastic. If there is even a part of you that just wants to somehow look good within the church culture of this perfect family,
Knock it off.
Knock it off.
Sorry, I beat you to it, man.
That's what I want to say.
You got me ticked.
That's so wrong.
Quit it. Just quit it.
I hate that part of our church culture where we're so desperate to portray something, and it's so disingenuous. And people, especially our youth, can sniff that out so quickly, and they can turn so cynical. You know, the members that are youth like, when they go and visit another family in the ward and they walk in the house and they see that whatever. Tell me, Cody, what do they see and why do they relate to? You pointed out yourself.
Oh, I forgot I was on camera too. So I was trying to make you laugh.
You know what families they enjoy going and visiting?
The cool ones.
The cool.
Can we call ourselves that?
What does a cool family look like?
No, I mean, so you walk into our house and everything's in a state of disarray and everyone's having a good time. And I think, okay, on a serious note, I think, let's pick on you. Why do I feel comfortable coming into your home? Because it's exactly like my home.
Because I'm super cool.
And you're super good looking. There's kids running around.
We're not going to stop.
No, ever.
Just unsubscribe if you don't want to hear it.
No, please don't. We need subscribers. Okay, we don't. I think people like hang around other people like that because it's relatable.
Right. You feel comfortable.
I feel like I'm at home. And that is what we should strive for. Is just make people feel welcome.
Man, the homes I walk into and their house is immaculate, and everything is placed perfectly. I don't know how to explain that. Like you walk into a room and it's just it's like a museum.
Yeah.
It gives me the creeps.
It does. And you don't feel at home. Like they offer to let you sit down. And you're like,
can I sit
on
down?
The sofa or the floor?
Is this a throw pillow or can I use this? I don't want to get in trouble. And it's like pins and needles, and I can't feel relaxed. Now, it would be silly for us to make fun of people for keeping a straight house.
No, that's, once again, come on the show, give us your secrets.
Yeah, but I guess the point is, it feels like we all, I think when we meet another family or we go to another member's home and it's like ours, we, for some reason, have this weight lifted off of our shoulders and feel like we can relax because, they're kind of like us. And the point is most families are, and what you see is, what it took to get that house straightened up. Probably a lot of yelling.
Yeah.
A lot of yelling, a lot of
crying, begging,
a lot of threats. And then all right, they're here now. You button up and put a smile on that face.
That's right.
And pretend to be this thing.
You quit crying and you smile right now. People need to think you're happy.
Yes. So, Cody, if there is a culture within our church of that perfect family that can be discouraging to others. Now, let me say one thing before we get here.
Before you let me off the leash.
Before I let you off the leash. We should strive to be good families, to do those things that we think other perfect families are doing. We're holding family home evening. We're praying together as a family in the evenings. We are having family council. We are spending time with our family. We are doing Come Follow Me with our family. We are getting our family to church, not even on time, but even early. We are participating in all of the social events within our wards. We are reading our scriptures. As parents, we are setting the example of those things for our children. You can get discouraged if you're not doing all of those things or even half of those things and just feel like, well, it's not going to happen with this family. I remember having family home evening with my family when I was a kid. You want to talk about something as far as it not being perfect? How about we talk about family home evening and how most of the time, especially with young kids or even Come Follow Me, it's a struggle. It's not everyone's seated nice and neat and quiet and engaged in this family activity. It's this balance of yelling the spirit out the door and trying to bring the spirit back in the door. Do you know what I mean? Your kids are not paying attention. They're rowdy, and you're like, you have this vision in your head of the pictures that I showed you at the beginning of our podcast. That vision in our mind. There's a family home evening, I guess, manual. There's a picture on the front of the manual that shows a family, quiet, engaged, sitting together. That's the ideal. That's the elusive thing to reach. But realistically, your kids are just being kids, and you're getting frustrated, and somehow you're supposed to have this spiritual family experience with these people now you don't want to be around. That's the reality.
Well, what do your kids remember from that?
My point is, I remember having it.
Yep.
I remember having it. I remember going to church with my family. I remember going for walks with my family. I remember having family time. And what would be fascinating is if we talked to our parents and we asked them, what were those experiences like? Because I remember all these great things. And they would probably just be so grateful that we remembered those good things, because more than half the time it was just utter chaos and just a mess. So let's wrap things up. Again, I'm going to pose the question. If we have a church culture of this issue of thinking that other members in your ward or in the church are this perfect family, or feeling like we're not there within our own families and being discouraged by that, how do we change as members, and how do we as members help prevent this part of culture from continuing to happen?
Yeah, I think that's important, that we just, that's not a question we're going to answer.
Yeah.
Obviously, because we can't.
And maybe we don't have to, but maybe we ask you as you're listening to think about it. So Cody, if you have thoughts, opinions, questions on today's topic, email us at email@theotherbros.com. Please follow us on the Soch, which Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Cody, let's thank our lovely wives.
Thank you, wives.
Thank you, wives, for...
Thank you, wife.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please. Let's clarify. When we said wives, it's because there happens
They're
to be
both.
two wives over there, but one is
Mine.
yours and one is mine.
Yours, yes.
Thank you for clarifying
Thank
that.
you, my wife. Fuck.
Thank you to them for saving the show. There's no doubt. Thank you to all of our family for their support. Thank you to all those who've been willing to give us a chance in listening to the podcast. Thank you for supporting us. Our theme song is by Filet. If you'd like to record an introduction for the Other Brothers podcast, please do, and send your recording to email@theotherbros.com. We also should say that even though we are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we do not in any way officially represent them in this podcast. Anything else, Cody?
I have nothing else.
All right. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next week. Remember, all is well, and we'll see you next time. Other Brothers out.